The motivational speaker, Dan Clark, here with Charlie Kirk, taken just weeks ago. Dan and Charlie spoke together at an Air Force Academy Board of Visitors. This was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Clark says they spent 15 hours together laughing and interacting with Air Force leadership, faculty, and Air Force cadets. And Dan Clark joins us live now on set here in studio to continue our team coverage of the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
And I guess you were appointed by President Trump to be on that Board of Visitors at the Air Force Academy. So what did that entail?
So the Board of Visitors is the equivalent of a Board of Regents of any major university, such as the University of Utah. But the most interesting thing that I think we need to point out is that it was filled with congressmen and senators, both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republican. In that picture, for example, you see Congressman August Pfluger, who's from the 11th District in Texas, who happens to be a white male, who happens to be a Republican, but above all, he was an American. You also see Don Davis, who is an American citizen from North Carolina, a U.S. congressman, who happens to be black, who happens to be a Democrat. And so we weren't just there talking about conservative or liberal ideas. We came together, as Charlie Kirk was famous for, and teaching all of us, reminding us of the difference between an argument and a debate. An argument is about who is right. A debate is like a discovery in the world of law, discovery for the truth. And so the greatest conversations that you can have with Charlie Kirk is when you disagree with them. And you better come with your facts.
Well, he had to prove my point. That's what it was all about yesterday. People were lined up to challenge
15
him.
to 20 before he was taken out.
And argue with him, right.
I love Marion, I love Ron, because they seek the truth, and that's why I'm such a fan of KUTV. I can't stand up for the other local television stations, but I know that you seek the truth, and it's not an argument. It's a debate where you come with your facts, I come with my facts. And at the end of the conversation, that's what made my relationship with Charlie Kirk so wonderful. I didn't have to agree with everything he said, but when you come with facts and he comes with facts, what an amazing conversation you could have. And if you think about what he did, remove the conservative, remove the liberal, he empowered an entire generation to put down their phones and get involved and do their own fact checking.
That was his whole purpose. I'm sure that he had fun doing that, challenging kids to open their minds to develop their own opinions. When you got word of this yesterday, it's got to be so devastating to you.
Yeah, I was actually playing in a golf tournament up at Wasatch Park. And I didn't know him for a long time. You know, his beloved wife, Erica, and his 2 kids, son and daughter. But what really touches my heart is that everybody from both sides of the aisle, you know, even as controversial in the conservative world as Governor Newsroom would be, came out publicly and condemned this violence. And that's what we need to do. And that's why I made a big deal of the fact that we had Democrats, we had Republicans on the Board of Visitors to advise, to oversee all the policies, all the discipline, all the curriculum of the Air Force Academy. And our conversation wasn't about conservative issues. And if you think about the power of Charlie Kirk, he could take the complex and make it simple. He would educate us and then challenge us to do our own fact checking so that we could come to a conversation and actually elevate one another so that we would leave saying, I like me best when I'm with you, I want to see you again.
And that's what education is about.
That's what it was. And again, I can't emphasize enough of how he, from the age of 18, as you said, Mary, he empowered an entire generation to get involved. And I don't think you can find a lot of videos where he's quoting Trump. He's basically saying, this is what I believe, this is why I believe it, and he's challenging all of us to do it. So, you know, let's just talk about religion for a second. You know, I'm a devout member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Some of my very best friends are Catholics. My mentor as a professional speaker was Zig Ziglar, the vice president of the Southern Baptist Convention. And he respected me for what I believed, and I respected him for what he believed, and he loved his Jesus as much as I did. And I've spoken in so many other churches, more than the LDS Church, where on a Saturday and on a Sunday when I spoke at Air Combat Command in Langley Air Force Base, I spoke 5 times on a Sunday to every single denomination, coming together with what brings us together in a common ground instead of having controversy. And that's what Charlie Kirk represents. Let's, regardless of the religious tradition, if you want to find out about Jesus Christ stumbling towards the cross, you don't ask Judas Iscariot. You ask his mother Mary. You ask Peter, James, or John. Yeah. And that's what Charlie was encouraging all of us to do. Do our own facts check. With all due respect, don't just believe the media. Don't just be a member of your religion because your parents or grandparents were. Find out who God is. Find out who you are. Find out what you believe and why you believe it. And what Charlie reminded us, what Charlie reminded us about is that we have to figure out what Maya Angelou said when she said, when you know better, you must do better. And that was what he encouraged the whole generation to do.
How can we use this to keep from tearing our nation apart? How can we use it as a bond?
It's such a great question. I think we need to just separate our opinions, separate the political rhetoric, and start making a big deal about America and what makes you an American. And because it's September 11th, I know exactly where I was when that horrific day occurred. And if you think about it, when those terrorists hijacked those jets and crashed them into buildings, killing thousands of people, they didn't attack our country. They didn't try to overthrow our government. They didn't try to capture landmass. They attacked what we believe in, which means, as Charlie would say, living in America does not make you an American. Why do we have to have so much controversy about immigration? He was the first one to educate the entire generation about this word democracy. We're losing our democracy. Someone's offending our democracy. You can't find the word democracy once in the Constitution or in the Declaration of Independence or in the Bill of Rights. Our founding fathers publicly said democracy is the worst form of government in the world, and they were afraid of the tyranny of the majority. They didn't want the tail to wag the dog. They didn't want the inmates to run the prison. And so Charlie Kirk was encouraging us to figure out what we believe and what the Constitution really protects. And he was so clever in his analogies. When birthright citizenship came up, he made the analogy, if your cow jumps over your fence into your yard and gives birth to a calf, you don't own the cow and you don't own the calf. Return it back to its rightful owner and put it back in the property. I'm sorry, I babbled on for so long.
There's a lot to talk about, though.
Well, Dan,
yes.
Thank you very much. I know it's been very difficult for you.
Yeah.
Gentle
we
giant.
appreciate you.
Yeah. Charlie Kirk, thanks for honoring me.
Thanks for sharing.
Sorry for your loss.
Thanks.
Yeah.